before we begin, I appreciate we have a very big crowd here. It is going to be very important that we keep it quiet. We're going to hold questions till after we're done so that everybody can really hear and pay attention to what's going on. So as you know, we're talking about the issue of same-sex marriage, but what I decided to do was sort of change the name of the talk-up to hashtag Same Love. Why? Because we're all familiar, I'm sure, with that very popular song by the Seattle hip-hop artist Macklemore called Same Love. Very, very popular now. In fact, it is number 11 on the Billboard chart. It has sold over 1 million copies, gone platinum, and it deals with the topic of homosexuality and gay marriage. And what I want to do is sort of look at the topic of gay marriage by sort of analyzing Macklemore's song, because what I see in looking at it, if you pay attention to the lyrics, that he uses a lot of the phrases and slogans that are popular in this debate. So what we want to do is look at the song lyrics and try to ask some questions, some thought-provoking questions about what he says so that we can better think about this topic and further dialogue about it. Because it is a very hotly debated topic and we need to be able to have reasoned and rational discussion about it. So first of all, let's look at some of the positive things that we see in the song. The song is not all that bad. It's got a good catchy beat. I think Mary Lambert has a very, very good voice. He talks at the beginning about the dangers of stereotyping. So I'm not going to rap the lyrics for you. I'm not a rapper. But I'll read him. He says, "When I was in the 3rd grade, I thought that I was gay because I could draw, my uncle was, and I kept my room straight. I told my mom, tears rushing down my face. She's like, 'Ben, you've loved girls since before pre-K.' Trip. Yeah, I guess she had a point, didn't she? Bunch of stereotypes all in my head. I remember doing the math like, yeah, I'm good at Little League. A preconceived idea of what it all meant for those that like the same sex had the characteristics." And so, of course, notice, of course, he's making a great point to say that he's not gay, but he is saying we got to be careful of stereotypes. Just because someone acts a certain way doesn't mean that they are homosexual. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as the discussion goes on. Number 2, he is very much against hate speech or bigotry, particularly when it comes to stuff that we see on the internet or when it comes to hip-hop singing. Now, I'm not a hip-hop artist, or nor do I really care for that genre, but I do know that it's there. He says, if I was gay, I would think hip-hop hates me. Have you read the YouTube comments lately? I think one of the biggest signs of the degradation of America is the conversations that happen on YouTube. My goodness, fools out there. Man that's gay gets dropped on the daily. We become so numb to what we're saying. A culture founded from oppression, yet we don't have acceptance for them. Call each other faggots behind the keys of a message board. A rude worded in hate, yet our genre still ignores it. Gay is synonymous with the lesser. And so again, is it good to have hate speech, to call people this, to degrade them? Not at all. Not at all. And so finally, I think on the positive, in general, he talks about the need for love, compassion, understanding, although as we'll see, he maybe gets that a little bit wrong. But the real heart of the song, is, as far as I see it, is Macklemore presenting the 2 most prominent arguments for same-sex marriage. Now, he's going to do it in the context of a rap song, so it's not going to be very well developed. But what I want to do is look at what he has to say and look at these arguments, the people arguing for gay marriage, and there are other ones, but these are the 2 main ones, and to see how they stand up. So the main argument that he gives is the title of the song. Underneath, it's all the same love. Marriage equality. That marriage between a man and a woman is equal to marriage between 2 men or marriage between 2 women. The problem is, and again, I understand it's a rap song, he never gives an argument why they're equal. He never says they're equal because of this. He just says they're equal. Now, if you know your philosophy, this is the fallacy of begging the question, where you use something that is not proven to prove your point. And so you can't do that. You just can't say, hey, marriage equality, we need to have respect rights. You've got to prove to me why marriage is equal. If I'm going to say that 1 + 1 = 2, I'm going to use this mathematical formula to prove it. But we just can't say, hey, they're equal, it's all the same love, without demonstrating why. Because it just doesn't make sense. Now let's presume that the same love is love of marriage that has sort of a sexual or a bodily component to it. Can we really say, if we factor in the body, that it is the same love? I think there's a challenge. One, because bodies are not the same. A man and a woman's body together is not the same as a man and a man's body or a woman and a woman's body. There's no sexual complementarity. So it really isn't the same. It doesn't have that sexual difference in the body. Number two, it is not truly possible to consummate homosexual love, where a man and a woman come together in the marital act. Their bodies are sort of ordered towards each other according to biology and evolution, where according for homosexuals, there's no consummation. We can arouse each other, but it's not really possible to consummate. It's not equal to heterosexual consummation. And third and finally, stemming from that, it is not naturally inherently possible for homosexual couples in their body to bring forth children. The act doesn't bring forth children by its nature, while heterosexual love is inherently procreative. By its nature, the natural thing that would happen is a child would come forth in that love. So if you count the body, I don't see how it's possible to say that they're equal. It's not the same love. The only way that I think you could say it, and again, Macklemore is not saying this, and I haven't really seen people argue this too much, is if you don't count the body and you don't count sexual difference, where love is nothing more than a feeling. Love is an emotion. Love is a sentiment. Love is like love between friendships. But the fact of the matter is, if the body does count, then the love is not equal. But the result of this is if you say the body doesn't count, it's all the same love, then why isn't polygamy the same? Why isn't incestuous union of a father with his daughter the same? It's all the same love. Because if you say the body doesn't matter and sexual difference doesn't matter, everything goes. Who are you to judge that it's not the same love? Who are you to say that love is not love? If you get rid of the objective standard of sexual difference in the body, then there's nothing really to judge from. And this, y'all, is the heart of the debate. What is marriage? It's not about homosexuality. We could be talking about polygamy. We could talk about incestuous union. We could talk about people wanting to marry themselves. It may sound ridiculous, but it's about what is marriage. Either the body and sexual difference matters for marriage, or it doesn't. If it does not matter for marriage, and all marriage is just a feeling and emotion that people share between each other, or willingness to be with each other, then what does it matter who marries whom? Does that make sense? That's the root. And so what this debate is about is not just about feelings. We're talking about changing public policy. We're talking about changing the laws of a nation. You don't just do it because you say #same love. You got to give me a definition of marriage. You got to give a reason. And Macklemore and many of his compatriots simply are not doing that. The second argument that he uses is the other very predominant one of equal rights. That gays have the right to marriage, and they're being denied it. So I'll give you the quotes. He really focuses on this. Gender to skin color, the complexion of your pigment, the same fight that led people to walk outs and sit-ins. It's human rights for everybody. There is no difference. When everyone else is more comfortable remaining voiceless, rather than fighting for humans that have had their rights stolen. I might not be the same, but that's not important. It's funny, it might not be the same, but that's not important. But he's saying it's the same. Anyhow, no freedom till we're equal, damn right, I support it. Again, Macklemore is falling into the same problem that he had before. He's saying gays have the right to marriage. He's saying that it's their natural right, they're being denied, but he never gives an argument for it. You just can't say something and think that it's true. You've got to be able to give a reason or a defense of why it's true. That's like me going up to sister and saying, "Sister, that bag is my bag."
No, it's not, Father.
Well, it is my bag.
No, Father, it's not.
It is. if I'm going to get that bag, I'm going to have to give a reason why. I'm going to say, sister, because my name is written into it.
Honey, your bag's right here.
Okay. That's our argument against it. So we're having a reasoned discussion. But Macklemore and a lot of people who advocate gay marriage simply aren't doing that. We have a right to do it, a marriage. Okay, then tell me why you have that right. You just can't go claiming you got a right to something and saying you're being denied the rights, playing the victim without giving a reason why. Now, one of the main arguments that we say is, well, we have a right to marry whomever we love. If I love you, I have a right to marry you. Okay, well then that's an argument for polygamy. Are you in favor of polygamy? Or polyandry, that's one woman marrying a bunch of men. Are you in favor of incestuous union? Because love is love, isn't it? You should have a right to marry who you love. Shouldn't then, according to that logic, a man have the right to marry a woman who's married to another man, even if that man disagrees who's married to the woman? Because, hey, love is love. What happens if you remove the standard, everything goes. It's not the slippery slope that this will happen. It's what we call a slippery slope in principle. In principle, you remove the standard of sexual difference in the body, then everything goes. Now, what about this idea of unjust discrimination? Well, does that really work? We've already seen that you've got to prove that you have a right, but we as a culture discriminate all of the time. Think about this, the analogy I'm going to use sort of throughout the talk. Let's say there was someone who's blind. Maybe they were born blind or they lost their sight later on. And they said, I want to drive a taxi cab. I should have the right to drive the taxi cab. You are denying me my right to drive the taxi cab. Is this unjust discrimination? No, it's not. We don't hate this person. We don't think this person's bad. It's not because he's blind, but because we understand that sight is necessary to drive a taxi cab, to drive a car. And because he doesn't have that, then he's not going to be able to do it. It's the same thing with gay marriage. We believe or argue that sexual difference, according to nature and even evolution, is necessary for marriage. And again, the evolution argument is a little bit more extended, but we're not going to get into that now. And therefore, if you don't have the desire to marry someone of the opposite sex, then you don't have the right to marriage. It's not because we hate you or discriminating, it's because of what we understand marriage to be. Again, we discriminate all the time with marriage. You can't marry your sister, you can't marry your father, one man can't marry 5 women, but no one says that's unjust. But again, if it's all the same love, that's discrimination too. That's unjust too. And if you're going to want homosexual marriage, you really, in principle, have got to be for everything. And I think we can all realize, if we're reasonable, that that's utter and complete chaos. It's utter and complete chaos.